Welcome to Homegirl Knows Best. This show is about the people, the stories, and all the messy chaos in between. I'm your host, Jen Cameron. Let's get into it.
Meet Lauren Cameron, gemologist and CEO of Lauren Cameron Fine Jewelry, an award-winning jewelry industry powerhouse recently named one of Jewelers of America's 20 under 40 and a top 50 woman leader in consumer products 2 years running. Lauren's not just making waves, she's redefining what legacy looks like, one heirloom at a time. From emo skulls to gossip girl pearls, this rock-loving jewelry visionary is proof that sparkle and substance can coexist. She's a board member, a volunteer, and a memory maker, designing pieces that aren't just beautiful but deeply personal. This is not costume jewelry. It's the real deal. Let's get into it. Welcome to Homegirl Knows Best, Lauren.
Thanks, Jen. That was such a nice intro.
Yeah, I try to make them a little epic. But you've done some really cool stuff, and we're going to get into all of that. But first of all, for our listeners, can you describe what is a gemologist and why is that important to what you do?
Of course. So a gemologist, even though it sounds like a fake job, it's not a fake job, very much real, is someone who studies the science of gems. So like diamonds, sapphires, emeralds, all the kinds of stones. And it takes extensive training to become a gemologist, and it's really important to what I do in my job.
And you got into your field pretty young and have had a lot of success in your field, and recently went out on your own to launch Lauren Cameron Fine Jewelry. But before we really get into all the good sparkly stuff, I kind of want to go back because we share something in common. We're both married to Cameron men.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are. Lucky us.
We're both unhinged. So clearly you sparkle, but you also bite, and that's exactly why you're here. Let's get into the gems, the grit, maybe a little bit of gossip. Tell me about where you grew up.
So I grew up in the East Side in the Redmond, Bellevue area. And then I went to Western Washington University up in Bellingham, where I majored in geology. And that's kind of where my love of rocks amplified, because I feel like I've always had it as a little girl collecting things, but that's where I decided I wanted to become a geologist, which is different from gemologist, but it was a nice segue into what I do today.
Awesome. Okay, so rewind a little bit. You grew up in the local area, went to private school. Mm-hmm. How was that experience?
It was interesting. It was a very strict environment. I had a great education, but there was a lot of stifling of personal expression. So I had to wear a uniform. Pretty much my entire kindergarten through 12th grade experience was wearing a uniform. And so it was kind of hard to rebel in fashion.
Was it a co-ed school, all girls school?
It was a co-ed school.
Okay, so how did you rebel?
So the only things you were kind of allowed to be different in was accessories. So like jewelry, hair accessories, shoes, or makeup, which they were still pretty strict about makeup. You couldn't dye your hair. There was one point when I really wanted to dye my hair black. My mom was like, absolutely not. But in my heart of hearts, I really wanted to, but I couldn't. So for my makeup, I would just draw super black eyeliner literally all the way around my eyes.
Like gothic?
Yes. Just kind of very, very dark.
Did they make you take it off or?
So they didn't make me take it off, but I probably wouldn't have even if they asked me to.
Okay.
My own kind of form of rebellion.
That's pretty on par with most of my friends or people that I know that have gone to private school. You know, it was always something with the skirt, the socks, the thing. Yours was gothic eyeliner.
It was. And then also I would wear a lot of spiky jewelry. It was still very girly though. It wasn't leather cuffs. It was cute little spikes, cute little skull earrings. Yeah.
It's interesting because I think people see you a certain way. Obviously, you design fine jewelry and you're very put together, beautiful. But you did kind of have a gothic girl era and a dual personality in there, right?
I don't feel like I ever got to fully express my what my insides look like, which is a deep, dark black hole. But My husband will describe me as being emo on the inside and like a little girly girl on the outside.
I love that.
I like my like emo rock, screamo, post-hardcore music that my husband does not like at all.
Still today?
Yes, I still like it
Okay,
today.
who are some of your favorite bands?
I feel like every time people ask me that, they're like, oh, I don't know who that is. But basically, I was a Warped Tour girl, which means it was a huge like emo rock, like kind of like the Coachella of emo music. It's not really around anymore, but I would go every year with my brother, and it was all this like, if you know kind of thing.
If you know, right.
Yeah.
So, okay, one of the things that I'm committed to on this podcast is really understanding what shapes us, our stories, the good, the bad, the people that were positive in our lives that help shape and mentor us, and the kind of the villains in our story as well, and the messy middle. I've met your family of very stable, wonderful parents.
They're great.
What absolutely darling. But you've shared with me a little bit about your experience when you were actually in junior high school during your cheerleading days. And I was wondering if we could just touch on that a little bit, because I think it's pretty powerful to understand some of the experiences you went through.
Yeah. So I was on a club team, which was not affiliated with my school or anything like that. And it was very intense for I did it like 6th grade through, I think I quit in 9th grade, maybe at end of 8th grade. And it was a co-ed team, and we were good. It was so stressful for such a young age. And I had a coach that was very hard on us, and I'm pretty sensitive, but it really like hardened me because, for example, like, we would be yelled and screamed at to try to get us to do it right. We had closed practices because like parents would complain because they didn't want their kids being yelled at or talked to like that, and demeaned. So it kind of gave me a really thick skin at a young age. For example, like, I was a little kid, and like, if you get yelled at and told you're the reason why everything is going wrong, and then if you started crying, you got yelled at more. So my way of coping with it was like, I'm just going to completely turn off everything and stuff it deep down inside me and just be totally numbed out to it so that I could, survive that situation. So I got really good at hiding my emotions.
So this was your cheerleading coach in junior high telling you if something went wrong, it was all your fault and you weren't good enough, and stop crying and whatnot.
Yes.
That's pretty abusive. So
it was hard as a little girl to hear those things, especially from someone that you care about and respect. Because I did really respect her. And so it was this weird like dichotomy in my brain of I was terrified of her, but I also like really, really wanted to make her proud. So it's kind of weird.
So as a little kid going through this experience, and you're saying you're stuffing it down and you're just trying to get through the moments and whatnot, then you go on to 9th grade, and what happens once you're kind of going into the next phase?
Yeah. So I'd say it's probably not healthy to stuff things down and not talk about that. I'd actually define that as pretty unhealthy coping mechanisms. But I'm proud to say that I eventually was able to work through some of the coping mechanisms that I have through lots of extensive therapy and also other trials and tribulations in my life, that I feel really comfortable with where I'm at with it today and expressing my emotions in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And not just avoiding everything.
That's so crazy. I was watching Alex Cooper's documentary for the first time, obviously, Call Her Daddy, or just followed female podcast anywhere, sharing her experience of being in college and playing soccer and being harassed by her coach. And it just hits me hard that these are other women mentoring women. And obviously they're in positions of power. And of course you want to please them and you want to make them proud and do a good job for them. But I know that like in my career, I faced harassment, discrimination my whole career. And it wasn't just men, unfortunately, but I had a couple of bosses in particular that were women. One who, the better I did for her, the more she came at me, undermining me, criticizing me, putting me down. And I didn't understand that. That was, not that long ago. I'd never really had that experience from a woman before. And it stood out to me. And then I had another female boss that I worked for who just had deep, deep personal issues. And she felt if anybody wasn't 100% on her side, that she came gunning for you. And I always found that odd because I thought, well, shouldn't we be supporting each other? Shouldn't we be uplifting each other? But I recently read this article about the queen bee syndrome. Have you heard this?
I feel like I have heard it.
It's where some women in power pull up the ladder instead of holding it steady for others. And it usually becomes from their biases. They say that as women, if you're a woman who's had to fight twice as hard to compete or end up, in a high level position in just competition with men, then you feel that you kind of have to be one of the guys. And so you kind of put that out there against other women versus helping them in the door, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's your advice to young women who are trying to carve their own lane in a cutthroat industry?
Yes, I do feel like I've experienced not just in like people of power, but also friendships, also which are like so hard because you think that they're your friend and they're not. And it's been women and men, that try to tear you down. I do think that people can be threatened by confidence a lot. People do not like when you come off confident. And like I can be insecure in other parts of my life, which I am, but my craft, I am so confident in what I do in my craft that I just know that about myself, and it doesn't really tear me down because I'm so on top of my game with my work that nothing they say is going to tear me down. And then I will cut them out of my life. Yeah, completely. I'm just like, I don't need that energy in my life. I don't need someone trying to compete with me in that way. I don't need that negativity. And if someone's threatened by my confidence, well, I am really good at my job. So yeah, I'm sorry for them because that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah. It goes back to a couple of conversations I've had recently where it's either, you're not going to dim your shine to make somebody else feel better, and understanding yourself. And sometimes that just means letting people go. But I think there's a lot of us out there to support one another. So you and I also share something in common, which is we both got married at a young age.
Yes.
And then quickly found ourselves. That's a good one. And then found ourselves unmarried, right? And that's a really tough position to be in because when you get married and divorced at a younger age, a lot of your friends are still getting married and having babies.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're thrown back in to this single life.
Yep.
What did you learn from that first experience of being married that you wouldn't repeat again?
I feel like I've learned so many things, a million things about myself. I do feel like I needed that experience in order to be where I am today. I always say to people who ask me about it that, like, if it wasn't that guy who I got married to, it would have been someone else and I would have had this whole cycle happen again. I needed to learn those lessons in order to break down these walls inside of me and grow. So even though it was a shitty experience, and I don't recommend it, it's not something I recommend, it did make me who I am today, and I feel like I'm the best version of myself I've ever been in my entire life, and that's because of that negative experience. I also know for me, and I feel like you're like this too, is I don't let things bring me down. I will never be the victim, ever. I am going to rewrite my story and how I want it to be, and I'm going to use that experience as a learning experience and grow from it and not try to feel bad about myself or like break myself down. So I think that's one thing, reframing it. And I hate victim mentality. I can even be around people that have a victim mentality. It's like, no, I can't. It's just draining to me. Yeah. So I could have totally gone in a different direction and been like, I'm this victim. Oh my gosh, poor me. But I didn't. I said, look at this experience that I had, I learned so much about myself, more than I ever could have dreamed of. And now I'm the best version of me. And I feel like that's what really opened me up to real love. And I got to find my husband, who I am in love with fully and amazing. He's the best.
Oh, we're going to talk about Alex Cameron. But before that, there's another part of the story because you went from marriage
Yep.
to single.
Yep.
Was there dating in between?
There's a lot of dating.
Okay, tell me. Give me
There's
the
a lot
tea,
of
Lauren.
dating.
Give me the tea.
So I had a problem with being a serial monogamist pretty much my entire life. I would go from long-term relationship to long-term relationship. So I never had like a fun dating frenzy. So after I got divorced, I was pretty convinced I never wanted to get married again. I was like, I'm going to be Elizabeth Taylor. I'm just going to have all these men in my life. I'm going to have all this jewelry and I'm just going to have fun. So like that's kind of how I was envisioning my life. And I went on tons of dates and it was very fun.
What was
Draining,
this?
but fun.
Was this like online?
Yeah,
How did you meet people?
It was online dating that I would then meet in person.
Okay.
yeah.
Where would you meet?
So I had a strategy. I would
You
line up.
had a dating strategy
Had a
for your
dating
online
strategy
dates.
for my online dating. So I would have 3 dates a week with 3 different men, and I would take them to the same place, which was a bar that was literally right next to my work because I wanted it to be convenient for me. And I'd always suggest it because they had to do way less work. I'd be like, oh, we should totally go to this super cute bar to get a drink. And they'd always say yes every time because it's like I'm suggesting like where to go, the time, all the things. And then I'd meet them and I'd have like a drink or 2, but I never wanted to have dinner because like what if I didn't like them and I didn't want to have to talk to them for that long. And after that, if I did like them, there was another bar that was like a block away and we'd like go to the second location. I'd suggest it again. Also, very close to where I worked at the time, so it was really, really convenient. And I'm sure the wait staff at the place that I went to was probably like, this girl, she's in here every week, multiple times a week.
Running her game.
They should give me a discount. I brought so much business into that establishment. But yeah, it was a fun time for sure. Obviously dating can be exhausting, so I did get exhausted by it because you go on some really shitty dates and you're just like, oh god.
Okay, do you have like a worst date ever story?
I have so many. But yes,
One that you can tell on the
One that I
air,
can tell
and you
on the
are
air.
a married woman now.
yes,
So.
but this one is, I feel like other women will relate to this, or men, or whoever. Anyone who's actively dating will relate to this, probably. So I met this person, this guy, and we were having drinks, and he was just really full of himself and very cocky and arrogant. And I do love a cocky, arrogant man. I'm not gonna lie. But it was so much so that I was like, oh my God, this is so annoying. He kept talking about how much money he made, all these parties he'd go to, all this traveling he'd do. And like, I can connect really easily with people. So like, I can keep the conversation going. I know what questions to ask. I can keep people talking. That doesn't mean I'm interested in what they have to say. I'm literally just trying. I was like, okay, I'm asking questions, but like, I don't really care what he was saying. He didn't ask me like any questions. He just loved talk about how cool his life was. And then at the end of the date, I was like, in my mind, I was like, thank God this is over. This was so horrible. I don't want to see this person again. But I was like, thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you. And then he's like, oh, well, do you like want to come back to my place? And I was like, no, I don't. He's like, but we had such great conversation in there. And in my mind, I was thinking, this guy is so full of himself. Does he not realize he didn't ask me a single question? He's so dumb. Like, absolutely not. I do not want to even talk to you again, bro. And he kept asking me, and I was like, you know, I'm really not interested, but thank you. Goodbye. And then I thought he got, you know, the hint, because I kept, you know, saying no, thank you, goodbye, I'm leaving. And then he texted me like a couple days later and was like, I really think we should like go out again. It was like so fun getting to hang out with you. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, no. What? Were we on the same date? Like, you crazy person?
Did
No.
you tell him why?
I didn't like ghosting people. So I very nicely was like, I'm really just not interested, but I wish you all the best. But in my mind, I was like, you really thought that was a good date?
Okay, we're different. You would have kept the conversation going. I would have looked at him and just said, I gotta go.
Really?
Yeah. I wouldn't even have the patience for it. Like,
I guess.
Like,
at that point, it was just kind of like funny to me on the inside.
yeah.
And I was like, how is he saying all these things? This is so crazy.
Your style is a little more gracious than that.
You're like, bye. I'm leaving.
I'm a really busy woman. It's a no. I gotta go. No,
That's
every
funny.
single married gal who's listening right now has been on a date like that.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just tell you, there is confidence and there's arrogance, and it's a fine line
It
in
is.
there
It
where to go
really
with that.
is.
But fellas, if you are on a date with a hot ass woman, you better ask about her. Make it all about her.
Yeah, like conversation 101.
I love that. So, okay, at one point, you get a match.
I do. Yes,
And this fella, his name is Alex.
I do.
Tell me about this experience.
So it's pretty funny. And I tell this story because people always want to know. And so Alex is okay with how I frame this story. So Alex's profile, like a dating profile, looked really douchey. And he said it was on purpose. He's like, that was my strategy. And I'm like, was it? And then his thing is like, well, we're married now, so I won. And I'm like, okay, fine. But basically his profile was pretty douchey. It was very vague, and like I was like scrolling, and I was like, this looks like the typical guy I would go for, but I'm gonna not do it because he looks too douchey. And then the last picture on there was like 2 little kittens, which I was like, this is obviously a thirst trap, but I'm gonna like it and whatever. And then he messaged me and was like, I know you only liked my profile for my cats.
Seriously?
Yes, he did. He said that. And I was like, yes, you're right. That is the only thing I liked about your profile. And then we started having good conversation. He's really sarcastic like me, so we can like banter back and forth. So we were having like good bantering. Yeah, because sometimes guys can be sensitive, and I'm very sarcastic and come from a very sarcastic family. So if they couldn't banter, it was an automatic like no.
Oh, no. No, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So we're both married. Obviously, I'm married to Alex's dad, if you're listening, Scott, and sarcasm rules our house. And it's the thing. You have a rotten day, you come in and you could just start joking and have banter, and it changes everything, especially if you're going through hard things. But so you guys are talking, but this was during COVID, right?
Yes, this was during COVID.
Okay.
Yes, I was dating with people in real life during COVID. I know people are going to get mad about that, but whatever.
We're here. So you and Alex talked for how long before you actually met?
So he was on his way to LA for 2 weeks to like visit his friends. And we matched like right before he left. And so we talked on the phone for hours and hours, like every day. It felt like high school because I was living at my parents' house during COVID, so it extra felt like high school, where I was just like on my cell phone in my room, like talking to this guy I had a crush on, and his friends were always like, "Who are you talking to?" Because when I say hours, it was like sometimes like 5 hours.
That is crazy.
On the phone, and it didn't feel like that. It felt like no time at all, and we just really connected and could talk about anything.
How is this relationship different than your first marriage?
Oh my God, not even, there's no comparison. There's no comparison. Alex and I both have gone through growth experiences in our life at a young age. So I feel like I was super attracted to his emotional intelligence and the way he's able to talk about his feelings and talk to me about feelings. And he's just a really smart and amazing, wonderful person. Obviously, I married him for all these qualities, but
yes.
yeah, we connected on such a deep level. so quickly that I just knew right away that he was going to be my husband. And I would not live out my Elizabeth Taylor dreams.
No. I'm so happy that you are married to Alex. Good to have you in our family, but also because Alex is a lot of work. It takes a special woman.
We are both high maintenance individuals. That's true.
I kid. I love Alex. I love him to death.
Say that we both need a high level of care.
I love that.
So we're on the same page.
So before we really get into, where you are now in your career, there was a moment where you said that you almost became a flight attendant.
Yes, I did.
Can you share that one? Because I cannot see
It's crazy. I know. It's very crazy. So I was in a very low point in my life. This was 2019, and arguably, I say 2019, I'll tell anyone, was the worst year of my entire life. It was when I felt my lowest. I was like a shell of myself. I was in a marriage I did not want to be in, and I was looking for literally anything to get me out of it. And I saw on LinkedIn that this airline was hiring for flight attendants, and I was like, yes, they're going to send me across the world and I never have to be home and be with this person I don't actually want to be married to. That sounds great. So I went through their extensive interview process, and this was right before COVID, so 2019. And then I got the job, and you have to go to training. And my training was scheduled for May of 2020. And so I was waiting for my training to happen, and I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to be a flight attendant. This is my chance to start over. So I had filed for divorce in February of 2020, and I was like, this is it. I'm going to start my new life. No one's going to know me as the divorced friend. I'm going to just live out my dreams and travel around the world. And then COVID hit, and I got a notice, and they said, we are postponing flight attendant training until further notice. No date. Just like, sorry, it's postponed, which obviously, because no one was flying, no one was doing anything. Yeah, so that kind of derailed my plans of wanting to get away and start over. But to be honest, I was wanting to do it for pretty much all the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, it does sound pretty awesome. And at the same time, you
yes.
can see how that was shaping itself out.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. We went into COVID.
Yeah.
So where did your career kind of shake out and shape out?
It did. I decided to get a job because I'm a jewelry professional. I was a gemologist. I was like, I'll get a job in jewelry, and I did. So that's what I was doing instead. And then I met my husband during that time, Alex, who was my boyfriend at the time. And I did get an invitation from the airline company being like, hey, we've opened up flight attendant training again if you're interested. And at that point, I just was no longer, it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore. So I decided not to, but that was so close to having that happen, which is crazy how the universe kind of works out.
And then you had other jobs where you worked for different jewelry businesses and other owners and whatnot. There's safety in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're starting your own business in luxury jewelry.
Yep.
So you launched your Lauren Cameron Fine Jewelry business a few months ago.
June.
June. And we're in October almost. And you had this epic launch party.
I did, because I'm very extra, so I had to go out with a bang.
Yeah, pearls and opulence and Mad Men and too many martinis for some who will remain nameless. We won't repeat that one again. But, I mean, that's a scary thing to do. I know firsthand how scary it is to leave the security and comfort of something that's known, right?
Mm-hmm.
To go out. What was it that fueled you to take that leap and go, yeah, this is scary. It's going to be challenging and probably expensive, quite honestly.
Yes. Yes, it is. In case anyone's wondering, yes, it is very expensive and challenging. But I always knew that I wanted to do my own thing. Ever since I went to college, I was like, I can't wait to be my own boss someday. I was very adamant that I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be the one with the ideas. I wanted to be executing my grand ideas. So I did always have it inside of me, but it is scary to go from getting a consistent paycheck to no paycheck, and having to reinvest in your company and all of that. I would say that the pain of not doing the entrepreneurship got so great for me that it was the fear of starting it was less, like it hurt so much to not do it that I needed to take that leap. I was interviewing with some pretty cool companies. I was trying to change jobs. I was interviewing with some really cool companies that I got pretty far in the interviewing process, and it just did not feel aligned inside of me. I was like, this just doesn't feel right. And it should have been. Those companies were very successful. They were very cool. I would have been grateful to work for the people, but just it wasn't lining up, and I just knew that it was time, even though the timing didn't quite feel right internally, just because it felt scary. But like I said, the pain of not doing it was so much greater for me, and I just had to do it.
There's a lot of people, I think, that can relate to that. Anyone who's ever gone out on their own to do the thing, right? There's a time where you're talking about the pain. I used to always say it was the stomach ache. I'd get up in the morning and go, oh, I've got to go do this thing, or my frustration of wanting to affect change that I knew would be powerful, impactful, and not being able to because either there was too many levels to go through or whatnot, or just simply because I saw a better way.
Yeah.
And there was a point where, okay, I've got to do this for me. And I had a business coach, and she said, you must never work for anyone else ever again. You are an entrepreneur, and you're going to constantly feel sick to your stomach. And I would say for me, going out and, buying the franchise and starting the agency and everything was the thing that set me free. And I've never had that pit in my stomach. Has it been easy? No. Is it stressful sometimes? Yes. I mean, am I exhausted most every day? Yes, I am. But the happiness that comes in and the creativity that's unleashed in that
exactly 100%.
is amazing.
I would say that nothing kills my soul more than a ceiling. Meaning, if I don't feel like I'm working or growing or being challenged, mentally stimulated, if I'm not working to be on to the next thing or any of that, like, I feel dead inside. I give this analogy to Alex, my husband, a lot, where, like, I could never be just a cog in a wheel. I could never just be, like, going in, collecting a paycheck, saving for my retirement. I know some people, that's what they want, and they thrive, and they like it, and they like the balance, they like the security. But for me, I just can't do it. That just sounds like the worst thing to me ever. I need constant challenges. I need my days to look different. And, like, is this the hardest thing I've ever done? Yes. Sometimes I feel like my sanity is, like, not there. But there's that saying where it's like, I'm insane, so it's gonna work out. And I feel like that just embodies me, like, to a T. Like, I'm that crazy that it's going to work out because I'm gonna make it happen.
I love this. Was there any defining moment in this process where you kind of second guessed and thought, oh, am I doing the right thing?
No. I always thought I was doing the right thing.
Okay.
But right thing as in for myself. I knew I wanted to be doing this business. I knew I'm so passionate about what I do that I just feel like this was the right thing. But there's other things where I was like, should I have gotten this packaging, or should I done this, or lots of learning with, like, other things within the business where I second guessed it. I'm like, should I have done this? And I am such a perfectionist that I, like, hate doing things wrong, but you're just gonna have to learn and grow from it, and just move forward. So that's what has been the hardest thing for me, is, like, just doing it and moving forward, like, figuring it out. I had this huge issue with, like, Shopify, who's my e-commerce platform. I won't go into the details because I might have a brain aneurysm re-talking about it because of the PTSD. But basically, there was, like, a glitch in the system that, like, shut down all payments to my website. And like, I had to file these appeals and, like, show that I was a business, and it took forever. And I was like, I am gonna go insane. This is crazy. And it all got fixed and resolved. But, like, it's stuff like that where I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do. I'm, like, Googling, I'm talking to people smarter than me, trying to figure it out. But I wouldn't trade all of the craziness for anything. I could never work for someone else again because this is just too much aligned with, like, my soul.
Oh my gosh. I want to talk a little bit about just the jewelry process before we talk about your new collection because this collection is so epic.
So
It's
sick.
everything. It's crazy. And I hope if you're listening to this and you're not watching it on YouTube, that you have the opportunity to watch on YouTube because we're going to show a lot of Lauren's new collection as well. I have my own pieces. I have my Lauren Cameron fine jewelry,
Thanks, Jen.
earrings, my ring. There is nothing like having a fine jewelry gemologist daughter-in-law in the family. I mean, Scott gets everyone's wish list. So, but in the process of designing jewelry, you probably do a lot of engagement rings.
I do. I do a
Yes.
lot of engagement rings. I do a lot of like heirloom revivals is what I call them, where I rework people's stones or heirloom pieces into new things and give them new life in ways they
Ooh.
can wear them. But it's a ton of, bridal
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
reworking.
Okay, so I have these questions in my mind about that process because, you have two people in that equation,
Oh, the
him
partners.
and her,
Yeah.
or the partners, or you have two people that come in and they're wanting to design a ring. What do you do when they don't agree? They don't agree on budget, or she wants something, he wants something different. I mean, have you ever gone through that? Has everybody just come in
100%.
all
No,
happy and
nope.
agreeable?
I've had to deal with a lot of this a lot of the time. So being an experienced advisor in this role, I think of myself more as like the best friend who just happens to know everything about jewelry and the stones. So I know the right questions to prompt them with to try to help them come together to a solution. It is really hard. I would say the hardest would be when the budget is misaligned between the two people, because that's such a significant driver in like ways we can make things happen. So I do like to, before I start sourcing stones for like, let's say an engagement ring, I do like to have the partners aligned on the budget and the design before we get into it. Because once you bring stones into the equation, it gets way too overwhelming and confusing. And then let's say one person falls in love with a stone, but it's out of the other person's budget. I don't like doing that to either person. So I like to solidify and have nice conversations beforehand.
I love that. Okay, so in that process though, how do you work with people who maybe don't even agree on the ring? Because I've heard this story before where they're in there and
I know.
he wants her so badly to have this
Yeah.
design and
Yeah.
she's over here, she's had this dream.
Yeah. It's just very gentle prompting, and it's asking a lot of questions. I find that if you're someone who's like a salesperson or an advisor or concierge jeweler and you're talking the whole time, that's incorrect. You need to be listening. You need to be asking questions. You need to be figuring out and uncovering like what are the actual pain points and parts that they're not aligning on, and then be able to kind of dig that out of them. So is it hard? Yes. But usually I will say there is a compromise, and I feel like marriage is all about compromising.
This is just the beginning when
Yes,
you're doing the
exactly.
ring.
Compromising. So I do feel like I have been able to get clients to compromise on certain things. Or maybe one partner is not very vocal in what they want, but based on their body language, I can kind of tell what they like and what they want. So then that allows me to ask questions to maybe prompt them to say things that maybe their partner's not picking up on what they're actually feeling, and they don't want to hurt their feelings. So it can be kind of subtle and hard like that, but I feel like I have helped hundreds of people through a custom process like this, that I just have kind of a sixth sense for the body language, the tone, the different reactions to things, that I feel like I have a good handle on it.
I love that. Okay, again, before we get into your new collection, you launched with a different collection. And
I did, yes.
tell us a little bit about that collection and why it was important to you and why you chose that for your launch.
Yes. So when we launched, I launched a very, very tiny collection. I wanted to launch some jewelry. It was a mixture of vintage pieces and some modern pieces that I'm actually re-releasing in this collection because I didn't feel like they got the love they deserved. So the first collection was called After Party, and that was a lavish, like extravagant, opulent party where like champagne has been thrown across the room and pearls are all over, and it's like kind of the messy, real aftermath of like a beautiful, luxurious party. So those are pieces inspired by that kind of storytelling. I had these really beautiful photos taken by Megan Jo Photography, who was my wedding photographer. That's how I met her. And I just am obsessed with them, and that's kind of what inspired the line. Is
Literally
this kind of
eating your
indulgent.
pearls
Yes, literally
at an
like eating
opulent
them.
table.
Yep.
I love that. I loved it so much. But this new collection is called...
So this new collection is called Beyond the Grave.
Oh my gosh. And if you're not watching and you're listening on Spotify, jump over to YouTube. My shirt looks like Stevie Nicks, but we're dressed today in a very ode to the collection, a little goth,
Yes.
a little
vampy.
yes. But this new collection has to do with mourning or death jewelry. Mourning jewelry has such a rich Gothic history. How on par for you, Lauren. Queen Victoria basically made it fashionable in the 1800s. Okay, I had never even heard of this until you told me about it, but what pulled you towards this world?
So I love antique jewelry in general because there's something so exclusive about it, and I'm a little bougie bitch. I love a little taste of exclusivity, and when you find antique jewelry that you love, you might not be able to find anything like it again. And I love the history behind it. I love that they don't make things the way they used to make them. So antiques in general, I just feel like are so unique, so one of a kind, so luxurious, and they've really stood the test of time. Like we're talking about the 1800s. That's a long time ago. So mourning jewelry in particular is something I really love because it is so romantic to me in a way that they want to honor the dead and preserve their memory and have them keep living kind of almost with them in a piece of jewelry.
So mourning jewelry, was it, okay, when somebody passed, did you give somebody a piece of jewelry to honor that person? Did you buy it for yourself? Like, what is the history of it?
Oh my gosh, Jen, it's all the hard questions. Next, you're going to ask me, like, whose hair is in this ring that's an antique ring.
Okay, I got to ask you, too. Because, for instance, you're wearing this ring.
Yes.
It's so cool. And it literally has braided hair in it.
Yep, woven hair inside the ring, which was very popular back then. And
whose hair is this?
I don't know. It's so old that I don't know, and the people I bought it from don't know. But it is real hair, and it is old.
Like 1800s old?
Yeah, like probably late 1800s.
That is so crazy.
But the thing I love about mourning jewelry is it has this kind of dark romance. And as we've discussed, I'm goth and a little emo on the inside. So something as like and feminine as fine jewelry, just I feel like it melds my personality together, which is something I have found so hard to bottle up my personality because I have these two very different, like this dichotomy to my personality. But mourning jewelry feels like that's the coming together of my
like
two halves.
A little morbid, a little magical.
Yes.
What's the misconception that people have about death jewelry?
I feel like mourning jewelry in general, people might think it's morbid and it's sad. But to me, it's a way to honor those who are no longer with us. And I think it's a little romantic and it is kind of like, it is a little like creepy, but I kind of like it. It's like, it's different, it's unique. It's not something, the pieces are not something we can really recreate today. The craftsmanship that they had back then is just, we can't even reproduce it. I love the details that go into these mourning jewelry pieces, the antique ones. It's just so much thought, so much dedication, so much craft goes in behind each piece that you can just like feel the essence of like the person that it was made for. Which
is that haunted?
I don't know. No. Everyone wants to know, is it haunted? I just think it's a beautiful representation of a life well lived.
Okay, so you have said many times that jewelry is like a little time capsule.
Mm-hmm.
Mourning pieces feel like little tiny gravestones
But cute
you can
ones.
actually wear. Um, you're kind of balancing this reverence with design. They're intricate. It's beautiful. The collection you have on right now, I'm literally obsessed with every piece, and you promised to teach me how to style all the
Yes.
layered chains and whatnot. But these rings are incredibly detailed. You do not see something like that now. Where do you find these pieces?
So the antique pieces I buy from specific wholesale only antique dealers. Through my time in the fine jewelry industry, I've been doing it for 10 years. So I have made a lot of connections throughout that 10-year experience. But yes, I get them from reputable wholesale dealers and trade shows
I just see these dealers going and they find something like these rings and they must just be dying and going gaga because they're like, these are 1800 authentic pieces. And they must get so excited when they find them.
Yes, and I get excited and want to keep everything I find, but, but I can't because then I would never have a business. So it is overwhelming in like the best way.
So not everything in this collection is vintage, though.
That's true. There's only a few vintage pieces, and then there's my modern take on mourning jewelry. But I called it Beyond the Grave jewelry because it's mourning jewelry inspired, but it's also about like eternal love and devotion.
Ooh, I love that. Mm-hmm. Who do you imagine wearing mourning jewelry today, and why do they need it? Why should they want it?
I feel like everybody should be wearing it.
Yeah.
Obviously. But I do feel like those who are sentimental, I'm extremely sentimental. Like I said, jewelry's little time capsules, little memories. Mourning jewelry is a physical representation of anything that you want it to be. And so when you're wearing it, when you look at it in your jewelry box, when you're putting it on, it's that positive memory that comes up for you. So some of the things in my collection are about lovers. Some of them are like the antique pieces that are like honoring the dead. And then I have other pieces that can be more like rebirth. So mourning your past self. And I really feel like for me, when I turned 30, when I got divorced, when I went through all this therapy, when I really found myself, that was like my rebirth cycle. I felt like the old me had died and the new me had just begun. I just started my life. So I wanted this collection to encapsulate multiple levels of death and rebirth and remembrance.
Yeah, and let me be clear. You do not need to wait for anyone else to buy you a piece of jewelry.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like,
I buy
seriously,
myself.
ladies, gentlemen, I don't care. Go get your groove on. My birthday, I always get wonderful gifts from my husband, but the first person to get me a birthday gift is me every year.
I buy myself fine jewelry. One piece of fine jewelry every year I buy myself for my birthday.
I love this.
I know, right? It should be
love
everyone's
this.
tradition. You're welcome, listeners.
Okay, yes. I'm welcome, Scott Cameron. Okay, so where can people connect with you that are listening? If they want to learn more, see your collection, your website?
Yes. So LaurenCameronFineJewelry.com and Lauren Cameron Fine Jewelry on Instagram and on TikTok. So it's all the same. And yeah.
Okay.
I feel like those are all my social media plugs.
Nice. Okay, so just kind of getting close to wrapping this up. You are insanely creative with your branding.
It's so fun.
The photo shoot that you did for this collection was actually done in a graveyard?
It was in a cemetery. So I had Jessica Christine Photography. She was the photographer who helped me bring this to life, and it was amazing. We collaborated on it. She was so down for it. We went to the Black Diamond Cemetery, which is haunted, allegedly. It has really old headstones and like really old graves. It's very beautiful, very historic, and we created this little world out of that photo shoot.
It's crazy. I would not go there with you. I'm not that person ever. But how epic. How does your brain work to come up with a creative idea like that?
I feel like my brain is always spinning. The wheels are always turning. Jen, I have so many cool ideas that I want to execute. They get me so amped up and excited. creating these like capsule collections like gives me life. It really gets my creative juices flowing. But it starts with just a random idea that I have, and then partnering with such amazing people to help bring it to life. Photography is so important to me, and the fact that I could collaborate. I've collaborated with so many amazing photographers. So this most recent one, like Jessica, who I collaborated with, Jessica Christine Photography, I feel like when I told her about the shoot, she just immediately got it. She's like, yes, we'll do this. And I just felt like we were cheerleaders for each other. She was excited about it. I was excited about it. And I start usually with a Pinterest board of ideas, and then it kind of blooms from there. But I am someone who goes all in.
Oh, yeah.
All in. Like, you came to the launch party, like, no stone unturned. Like, I am like rage buying from Amazon like the night before. I'm like, I need all these black candles, or I need this, I need that. I just have these little visions that pop into my head, and I'm like, it has to be done. So I do kind of go all out for the
I love that.
the
I love
events.
it. It makes me want to go, what's next?
Yes.
But what can people expect from you in the future without giving too much away?
So there will be more capsule collections to come, and they will be highly themed. So we love a themed collection. And if you're out there and you love being transported into a little world, then you will love my collections, because that is exactly what I want you to do. I want it to like feel, smell, taste, all the things through the collection, through the little world.
The experience.
The experience. The experience is so important to me. The client experience and interactions is even more fun to me than, like, the jewelry is so fun and beautiful, but that's one small part of it. I want all touch points to be creative and engaging.
I love this. Okay, so this is kind of the fun part of the podcast where I come to you and I say, Lauren, we're going to do a fun little game called Rapid Fire. I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
What's your favorite gem right now?
Emeralds.
Morning person or morning person?
Wait, morning like MOURN?
Morning or morning?
Both.
What's one jewelry trend that you'd bury forever?
I feel like people are going to hate me for this, but the hidden halo. Ooh, I'm sorry I said it.
Oh.
Everyone's going to hate me.
Oh.
My hot take.
Okay. What's one heirloom you'd never part with?
My own heirlooms. Oh, I'm taking all of them with me.
None. You're
Just
not
kidding.
kidding.
I can't part with any of them. I do have this one piece, though, that I made for myself so long ago, and it is a, my last name, Forbes, is my maiden name, is a Scottish kind of clan. And so I have a wax seal that I made of my Scottish, like, clan. I'm forgetting what it's called. Coat of arms or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's huge. It came out so much bigger than I thought. It's like a giant little thing of gold, and it is like a wax stamp of that Forbes clan.
Oh,
and that's one thing that's really important to me.
That sounds special. Thank you for coming today. I'm so incredibly proud of you.
Thank you.
And I think we should go shop now.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Shop laurencameronfinejewelry.com.
Okay. See ya.
Thanks, Jen.
If you've made it this far, thanks for listening, and thanks to my guest. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. See ya.